So we're going to have a chat today about career journeys. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, so Lan, you are our Chief AI Officer. We're going to get into the details, but in like a quick recap, how'd you get here?
So I've been with Accenture a little bit over 20 years.
Okay.
And I've been in this business close to like 23 years. First and foremost, I grew up as math and science fan.
Okay.
Okay. I grew up in China, and I always super good with math and what we call the STEM degrees.
Okay.
Right. And in
Was
fact,
that always your favorite thing?
yes,
Yes.
of course, that is my
Yep.
favorite thing.
Yeah.
I love science so much. I decided to build my first robot at age 16.
That's fantastic.
In order to, for me to do that, it wasn't easy, right? Because we were not rich at that time. We did not have a whole lot of resources. So my parents, who are super dedicated to my education, my brother's education, they had to borrow money, right?
For you to build your robot.
Yes, build my robot so that I can get into this super prestigious, science camp. Of course, the camp only has 3 kids out of the billions of people in China, and I'm the only girl at that time, right? The other two.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I built a robot, and guess what the robot was doing? The robot was used to teach village kids in China how to speak English. Right, learn English. So that whole experience, really, become a key milestone, right, of my early stage of a science career. I became so interested in, artificial intelligence. So that got me into science, and I decided to actually come to the United States, right, to pursue my PhD studies.
Okay. And sometimes when you go to college, you might change your mind. You might go into college thinking, I really love math and science, and you learn you love literature and history. You stayed steadfast.
I stayed
STEM.
I stayed STEM, and maybe it was because I did not have many of the options, right? So
I'm the opposite. I really liked math all the way up through to going to university, and I originally went in for economics, and I ended up taking a communications class as part of my my required curriculum, and I loved it, and I changed the whole course of my career. You're the opposite. You always knew.
Yeah, I think there's some commonalities, right, in both our stories. It's the passion. Right?
Yes.
You have to love what you do.
When you think about that part of someone's career journey, the early years, you're a part of a team, right? Your success is dependent upon others' success. Everybody has to be doing their job. What did you learn in that early time of your career? How did you learn to be a good teammate?
I think learning from each other, so that we bring the best of the best, right, to client. To me, it's not a cliche.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. I know personally, part of my career path choices were based on the team I wanted to be on, almost more than the role I was going to get. Because the team really matters. The being able to have that camaraderie, trust, work with people you respect and you will learn from is a big game changer. So as your career evolved and AI started to really change its role in the business landscape, did you recognize that your career was going to go the way it did? I mean, being the Chief AI Officer is no small feat. When did you start to have that line of sight? And was it an ambition, or were you kind of just, did it happen?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. I would say it's kind of both, right? Like I said, it's not like I did the career planning, very deliberate, right? I kind of know what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing, right?
Yep.
So I think that's the one part of that. And then I think the second part is, to me, it's just I'm really how do you say that, the right timing, right, at the right spot, right, with the right skill set, with the right leadership support, right?
Yeah.
And then also my ambition, my expertise aligned to the firm's strategy, right? Because you are part of the making, right? I think to me it's just and I'm using the phrase fortune favors the prepared. Right? I think all the 2 decades of work that I've been doing in Accenture, serving clients, right? Improving myself, building teams, all of this, culminated right? When, I would say around 2019, 2020.
Preparation does not mean being mechanical. It doesn't mean, because I've done this with you enough times, right? I watch you. Preparation is so you can go anywhere. It's so you can be agile. All the things you said that's so important in a leader. It's not preparation of, I've memorized this, I'm going to get through it, I'm not going to step out of line the whole way. Because when you're really well prepared, the client gives you this question, or you realize that the interest is over there, you're able to completely bob and weave because you know everything so deeply. And I think that's an important point as well. Preparation is different than memorization.
Well said, yes.
Yeah.
Going back to my point earlier about fortune favors the prepared, right? I think we as a team, we have, with the leadership around us, we sort of had that inkling, right? That strategic foresight, something big is going to happen. But if we're not prepared, if we have not been investing in digital for the last 2 decades, doing a lot of great work that I'm still proud of, we may not be ready at that time. We could be just, it could be just a passing by technology, and then we scramble to play the catch up. But I think our strategy is very, very unique, very, very differentiated because of all these elements.
And Lan, as you were going on this journey, you moved from being a member of the team to leading the team. What about becoming a leader? What was important to you in terms of the type of leader you want to be?
I'm always very, sensitive, cognizant of, being resilient, right? I think the adaptability is super, super important.
There's no doubt that you're working hard. You've got a lot going on. You have a lot of people, clients dependent upon you. You have a large team that's dependent upon you. But you also have that side of just what fuels your personal passion and what. Well, tell me a little bit about, how do you keep yourself resilient? How do you take care of yourself so you have the energy to do the job you do?
It's super important. And again, I don't want people to think that, okay, all these things are being resilient, being, competent, being risk-taking are very hard, right?
Yes.
So I think you have to figure out your own way of doing this very naturally. Right, so I think having big ambition, is very second nature to a lot of us. But also take care of yourself, right? And I love Chinese idioms, but there's something that I have to translate into English. Is that you take a couple steps back, right? Grass is greener. Right? Sky is bluer. There's nothing, right? I mean, think about all the things that we have to deal with every day.
I do too. I really think it's a choice. It's my dad used to always say to me about, like, if you're walking on the shady side of the street and the sun's over there, then cross the road. Like, you have to make choices every day. I think that
I think this kind of little things, and you mindset shift. And then I cannot tell you how many times I missed my flight, right? Because I'm always on the call, right? And then I literally just missed the flight because I didn't board because I'm right there at the gate, right? So again, this kind of thing sometimes could be, very frustrating, right? But I always, but okay, when that happened, maybe I ended up sitting with someone that really fun on the plane, and we started having a great conversation, right? So think about those rewarding things. And again, you have to be intentional, right? Having
totally
different perspective. And so far, that trick worked. I would say 9 out of the 10 times. Right. So
I really like that. The other thing that I think that's important to learn is to give yourself a little grace. There'll be the moments where you make the mistake, you missed the flight, you didn't catch something. So when you mentioned resilience, when you need to do that readjustment, what's your trick then?
I think self-reflection is very important, right? And I think in Accenture, obviously everybody's super busy. We probably wish every day we have 26 hours, right? I oftentimes find the thinking time, right, for myself. I just shut down, just don't do anything, right? Don't look at your phone when you wake up, right? And it's a habit, right?
I do that with movement and walking, and it's funny because today I went out, and yesterday it was a little warmer for the first time, not incredibly warm, but I left this morning with just a sweatshirt on. It was cold, and I was walking on the walking path, and everyone else had on hats and gloves and jackets, but I was into it, and I was going, and I knew if I went back, I might check my phone, I might get an email, I might realize, you better jump in the shower, you got a 7 o'clock call. And I just stayed the course because for me, that's just like the only time I get to myself. And it was the most beautiful sunrise that I ever saw.
I know, isn't it a beautiful day today?
Yeah,
here
and I
in New
just
York?
took a couple of deep breaths, and it was like, was I a little chilly? Should I grab the jacket when I walked out the door? Yes, but it was like I protected that time because it was mine, and I didn't want the whole day to start yet. I wanted to have that little bit of
I'm gonna steal your trick. I think part of my thinking time is also maybe it's the serendipity. It is also every day or maybe every week. Find that 30 minutes, right? Maybe every day is 5 minutes. That's your time for learning, right? And could be one podcast that I listen to. Could be one archive paper.
What is the best piece of advice anyone ever gave you? Did you have a mentor or a sponsor or a leader who gave you a great piece of advice, and would you share that with us?
Yeah, sure. I think the mentorship is super important, right? In Accenture, I mean, just overall in your career life. In the past, I also do some kind of a talk to the community, right? Like for example, they always ask, okay, how do you go by get finding mentors, right? So I think finding mentors you need to be intentional. You also need to make efforts, right? And also think about a lot of times you could have different mentors, right? Mentors don't have to be your managers or luminaries, right? And mentors could be your peers too, right? And you could think about things like situational mentors, right? So
I like that.
Yeah. So but I think then you may be thinking, oh my God, then it's too much, right? And so again, how do you actually manage that? How do you be deliberate about that? Maybe it's 5 minutes checking, right, with your mentors, right, every month or something, or 10 minutes, right? So I was just very fortunate, right? Within Accenture, I have female mentors, we have male mentors, we have, peer mentors. So to me, they are, invaluable resources to me. I think the mentorship is extremely important. I completely agree.
And do you have the time to mentor others? You have.
Oh yeah. No, it's my giving back time, right? So,
that's right.
And I think a lot of people come to me, asking, okay, how do you do networking, right? I'm like, okay, I don't. To me, that's another thing that you just do very naturally, right? You just get to know people, right? But I'm also, providing a lot of mentorship to my team, right? I think I think having followership is very important, right? Stewardship is one of our leadership essential too, right? So sometimes just a little advice, right? Actionable advice, right? Don't make things too theoretical, right? And don't make things very hard for people to to do, right? Little things. I'm always about little things, little tricks, right? And everything, because that's how I learn from my mentor.
It all adds up.
Yep, it all adds up.
So Lan, another thing I get asked a lot is if you're starting marketing today, it's very different than if you started 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and kind of what's the best advice. And I really say something that I don't know that I could have ever predicted myself saying, which is to truly learn and deeply understand technology and data. And I think maybe I would have said that a couple of years ago because I would think you have to, but now it comes from true love, like the creativity that it inspires, the curiosity that it invokes, the power that it gives a marketer is like nothing I ever imagined. So my biggest piece of advice is get really comfortable with technology, fuse technology and marketing in a way that will let you do things you could have never dreamed. What's your biggest piece of advice to someone who's like you were when you were, building that first robot or getting that scholarship into university? What's your advice in terms of how to have an amazing career in data and AI?
Yeah, no, I think to me that's I think my advice hasn't changed, right? I think for younger generation, getting into AI is such a exciting time, right? To me, just the technology has evolved so much, right? Now we're talking about almost every, a new model every day. In fact, now based on what we have seen over the last, 24 months, we already gone through 4 waves. Did you know that? 4 waves of, AI revolution, right? Now we're in the agentic AI, we're getting into the physical AI, reasoning model is becoming a mainstream, right? So I think for younger generation, my piece of advice is, I think one is agility, right? So you come in almost like we talk about every leader is a technology leader now, right? So it's not like you being technical, that becomes a adjective, right?
Yes.
To me, that's not everybody's. Technology is all around us, right? So especially for younger generation, for Gen Zers, they will come with that kind of background, right? The love for technology.
Yes,
exactly. So
level.
actually, what I'm going to remind them is have that multidisciplinary, right, perspective, right? AI is not working in silo. AI is not just about computer science, right? AI is not just about one discipline, right? In fact, I think the newer technology around us now actually it requires this kind of what I call the multidisciplinary, more fluid skill set, right? That's why in Accenture we created this R12, right? 12 roles. We look at all of our thousands of people, right? Redefine this career architecture, right? Make them future ready. One of my favorite one, I name it, is AI computational scientist, right? That role didn't exist before. You're like, oh, is that data scientist? Is that computer science? Is that software engineering? I'm like, yes, it's all of them.
That's right.
It's
and
all
think
of
about
them.
it, in marketing, we made the agent sponsor, right? That's a role that didn't exist. I still need to develop my prompt engineering skills, but I'm working on it.
That's why I think that what you just said is such a great example. The line is getting blurry. It's not about, oh, I'm technical, you're not technical.
Right.
You're strategic, I'm not strategic, right? Oh, I'm creative, you're not creative. I think the future workplace is going to be very different, right?
And, I think there's been a whole generation of people who look at that as transformation, and they need the resiliency to keep changing, where I think the next generation and the one after that, that's going to be their norm.
That's going to be their norm.
And they're not going to want static.
I can give you so many examples. So my daughter is getting into her law education, right? This coming September, right? But guess what she's doing now? She's a data governance analyst, right, with a consulting firm. We're doing paralegal, right, in part-time. So I think the job is going to be
a little bit like mom.
So job is going to be very hard to define to a certain degree. Right. So anyway, it's a fun time. It's really
a fun
exciting
time. Very different, but I think that in all those differences, there's beautiful things that are yet to be discovered, and careers that we probably wouldn't even imagine right now sitting here today.
I cannot agree with you more.
Well, I'll wrap us up by telling a little bit, for those who don't know, you and I have been working on a project together. I realized it was about 9 months ago that we started, because it was May of last year, and we've been working on the AI refinery and agentic AI, specifically for marketing, and just listening to your story, your ability to focus, your ability to go deep, your clear love of technology, but also your agility. I saw that firsthand when you sought to learn marketing with us, because you didn't just want to see what agents could do.
Remember that first couple of days, I literally told my team, that's just,
we're not going to talk about the tech.
We're not going to talk about that.
No,
we
we're
want
just
to
gonna
learn
listen.
from Jill.
That's right.
Right.
And I love that, because I've seen that in action, your generosity, your collaboration, your deep expertise, and I've been privileged to learn a lot from you. No patent yet, but I'm working on it. Learn a lot from you over the past year of working with you. So I'm glad we got to hear a little bit about your story today. And thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me.